Welcome everyone to one of our Hot Starts webinar series. And in the upcoming 30 minutes, we're going to talk with you about the real value of hands-on experience for the developer adoption. And of course, why targeted follow-ups are so important when you're doing POCs, POVs, or demos. And a couple of words about myself. My name is Denisa. I'm part of the product team here at Instruqt. I joined last summer, and I come from actually B2B SaaS environment, and I know firsthand how hard it can be to turn prospect interest into a closed deal. And from a PM perspective, I also believe in the power of knowledge. And if there is a way for us here in Instruqt to provide our customers with insights into prospect intent, clear signals on when to follow up, and actionable data to act on, this is the kind of value we want to deliver. And I think, that kind of tells my story. Thomas, over to you. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Denisa. So I've been working 26 years in tech, primarily in higher education, e-commerce, and infrastructure. I've done everything from working help desk to being a systems and infrastructure engineer, and now doing sales engineering. I joined Instruqt last December as the head of value engineering, but I've also been using Instruqt for several years at my previous job, first as a field SE, then as part of an overlay team, and finally as an internal technical enablement team responsible for Instruqt as the platform of my company. So I'm really excited to be here and to show the value of what Instruqt can do for technical sales.
Before we dive into the content of the webinar, so talking about our Salesforce integration, I think it's important to say a quick word on who we actually are. So Instruqt is the leading platform for go-to-market teams driving product adoption through hands-on developer experience. We work daily with marketing, sales, and education teams, and we help them turn hands-on labs into real business driver. So when we talk about ROI of hands-on labs, it doesn't actually go from guessing. It comes from our experience working with hundreds of customers. And one of those customers is actually Elastic. And one of their success stories that we want to share today is actually how Elastic uses Instruqt. They use Instruqt to empower their pre-sales and architecture teams to actually provide them with scalable hands-on labs and provide very, very high value adoption that is driven by developer experience. The initiative touches about 300 of their solution architects globally. And of course, one of the key results is the customer success for them and the feedback that they receive from hands-on labs. But results like that, like Elastic has, they don't come overnight, they don't just happen. They start with the companies asking questions about how do we address POVs, do we address POCs and demos. And that's someone Thomas knows best in our company, I believe. And Thomas, I actually wanted to ask you, could you tell us about a traditional POC and POV, and is there anything that can actually break that process for the companies?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. And just relate it back to what we saw from Elastic. We hear this consistently from an SE and from technical sales leaders in the field. And I went through this experience. A one-way demo is a starting point, but it's passive. It's not engaging for your customers. You're kind of laying the groundwork, but you need to keep that engagement with your customers, especially if you want to turn an opportunity into a customer. So you want to get them something interactive, something hands-on, but getting hands-on can be difficult. Handcrafting environments is slow, clunky, it's inconsistent. You create a higher risk of a poor user experience, which is the last thing that you want as you're trying to turn an opportunity into customer. And do you even have a place to get your customers hands-on? Can you leverage existing assets, or is everyone kind of scrambling to build things? And not getting your customers hands-on with your products and services with kind of a clear guided story means you're going to be covering basics during POCs and POVs when you should be focusing most on your customers' core, critical concerns. In my experience, 80% of your product knowledge is baseline stuff. Every customer is going to need to see it, but it's really a checkbox. Does this work this way? How does this work? They just kind of check it off. In my experience, though, every customer has about 20% of what they're really particularly interested in. Maybe it's a particular problem that has plagued them in the past, and so they've got a vested interest in making sure that your product or solution will handle that, or it's something where they've been burnt in the past. And that's that 20% is what you really want to be focusing on in those handcrafted, tailored POVs and POCs. So let's figure out how to get that 80% of quote unquote boring stuff out of the way. And that's really where, Instruqt comes in, is providing a way to do that. And you want to get meaningful signals from your customers. If as they're going through things, you want to figure out who's engaged, who's having trouble, and you want to turn that into actual meaningful signals for the users. So how does Instruqt approach this? Well, our goal and the value we deliver is a no-install, repeatable motion that reduces SE lift, shows value faster, and ultimately shortens sales cycles. Your customers and opportunities get hands-on experience with your actual software and services. It's not mock-ups. They can get hands-on. They can poke at it. They can prod at it. They can see how it reacts. They're using your software. And you provide a story which has clear success criteria. So within the framework of an Instruqt track, you're taking folks through a guided story, you're taking them through individual steps, and you're leading them to a successful completion. And with this improved Salesforce integration that we're really talking about today, that engagement data flows right back into your system of record. With our improved Salesforce integration, we're making your job easier. You can create Instruqt invites directly inside of Salesforce. You're already there. It's your system of record for dealing with your opportunities and your customers. And anyone who is field facing can do it in Salesforce. Your SEs, your CSMs, your account reps, anyone that is field facing can be doing that directly inside of Instruqt inside of Salesforce. And you can see the impact of those motions. When you create an invite from within an opportunity, the data about who played that invite, how far did they get through, how long did they spend, that is flowing automatically back into Salesforce, which allows you to turn that into action. If you've got a particular customer or someone at your customer who is engaged, they're going through all of the tracks, they're going all the way through, that's a signal that that person is interested in you. And that's who you should be focusing on to turn them into a champion for your product internally. If you see a critical decision maker is having trouble getting through a particular track, or they keep getting stuck, you can reach out to them and do a targeted session to help alleviate their concerns. And ultimately, your sales team efficiency improves by providing the capabilities to prioritize who you should be focusing on and getting to those most promising prospects. But enough talk. I want to turn it over to Denise here to show you the actual exciting part, which is a live demo of our improved Salesforce integration.
Thank you, Thomas. I really like how you said that our customers actually already have the story that they want to tell to their prospects, and that staying in that focus is so important for sales engineers and value engineers. And this is the idea that we had when we were building that integration. The team actually stays focused, stays in the workflow in the Salesforce environment, and Instruqt comes to that workflow and just is integrated in it. So the focus stays there, you are in the zone, there is no context switching, and we know that's super important for actually winning those successful deals. One thing before we go into Salesforce, our new integration is a managed package that actually comes with pre-built reports and custom objects and a very clear set of permissions and user roles. We provide the customers with a checklist that is valid before the installation, so your Salesforce admin actually knows what exactly needs to be done. And there are recommendations for the setup of the UI in Salesforce, even how to customize, instruct custom objects for your specific preferences. And ideally, the integration shouldn't take more than 15 minutes from your Salesforce admin. So now let me start sharing the screen. So right now we are in our Salesforce demo environment. This is a regular opportunity. As you can see, quite standard overview. We see the state of the deal, we see the amount, we see the opportunity owner. So this is something that's quite familiar to all of the sales engineers and value engineers and sales teams, of course. Here on the top right, there is something new. That's a quick action button that's called Create Instruqt Invite. This is the way to start connecting your opportunity to Instruqt content. And as I mentioned before, it's fully customizable. So you can actually create a quick action button or make that action as a part of the drop down. Really depends on the preferences for your team and how you want to do that together with your Salesforce admin. So when we click the create Instruqt invite, we actually see the overview of how to create that invite. For those who are not familiar with what an Instruqt invite is, this is a way for you to share your content, your tracks with your prospects. So this is a way for you to actually give them access to the content that has been created specifically for them. And this is the story that we already mentioned you have behind and you want to tell about your product. Let me do one thing. Yes. So we start with adding the public title for your invite. So this is something that your prospect is going to see. And the public description, of course. This is something that they will see when they enter the invite URL. Internal title, something optional for you and your team in case you want something to make a note about that specific invite. Then you go to sharing method. There are two ways to share your Instruqt content. First is shareable link, is when you share the direct URL to the content with your prospects, or embed. And embed is exactly what it sounds. It's when you embed Instruqt form and the content to your landing page. And if you do that, if you do create the invite from Salesforce, it also means that every interaction with Instruqt content that happens on your landing page will actually end up in your opportunity. So you will have full overview of the progress of your prospects. We're going to go with shareable link for the purpose of this demo, and then an invite type. A self-paced is an opportunity for you to give to your prospects to go for the content on their own time and effort. This is something that usually happens for POCs, POVs, and demos. And live event is something that happens with a webinar or instructor-led training. As you can see, if you select the live event, we're going to ask you to set up the date and time for the actual event. For the purpose of the demo again, we're going to go with a self-paced and with shareable link. Then we click next and we go to the second step of the visit for the invite creation. And this is actually the step where you select the content that you want to share with this specific opportunity, with the people, with the prospects. You probably in your Instruqt environment already have different types of content for different opportunities, for different deal stages, different categories of the customers. So here you actually select that content. And I'm going to do 2 tracks from Instruqt. And in case you have more, of course, there is a search bar available for you, so you can find the content that you specifically need. And then on the third step of the visit, we will limit the invite one way or another to make sure that it's targeted to your specific use case. Access mode, quite simple to understand. If it's anyone with the link, it means that anyone who will get access to the invite to that Instruqt content will be able to play it without leaving any details. Anyone leaving their details actually will have a specific form which they will fill in, entering their email name, maybe their specific information that you need them to fill in, or specific people. This is the one that we recommend for the usage in the Salesforce integration. In a moment, I'm going to show why we recommend that. But that means that you have specific people from that opportunity who need to have access to that specific track and content and go for that. Limits, it's something for you to actually limit the access to the invite. So invite limit is the lifetime of the invite, for how long can it be accessible by the prospect. If there is something specific, a date and a time until which the invite has to be valid, you can also set it up here. Play limit is the number of sessions that you provide to your prospect to actually go through the content, because sometimes you want them to be able to do that numerous times, or sometimes you want it to be quite exclusive and just give them 1 or 2 opportunities. And then playtime limit in minutes. That's if you want to cap the duration of the track and of the play that your prospects are having with Instruqt content. And here at the bottom, the settings, those are usually used for instructor-led training, and those are really relevant for when an instructor wants to access the environment of the learner and actually see what's going on there. And in the next step, in the last step, we are going to select the exact people who need to have access to the Instruqt content. These are not just random people. These are the people, the contacts that you already have in your opportunity. You know their role and how important they are for that specific deal. And maybe you even have one invite for evaluators and a separate even invite to Instruqt content for the decision maker. So on this stage, you can really select those people who are the target for that specific invite. Let's do that. Create an invite, and then we do open invite. So what happens in the background after you click create an invite, Instruqt already gets a signal of the creation of the invite, and it already exists in the system. So it means that the invite and the content is ready for your prospects to access and to start working for the content and actually getting to know your product and understanding why the invite has actually been sent. We are now, as you remember, in the invite overview page. Here I see all the settings that I have set up when editing the invite. I see the opportunity name. I see the invite URL, which I can either copy and paste to share with my prospect, or maybe there is an automation running in your Salesforce that directly can copy the invite and send it to the prospect if you have already set that up. Here at the bottom, we have everything that you saw in the visit with specific details, and I also know who are the people who I allow to access that invite. And in the related tab here at the top, we're going to see the Instruqt session in case they happen. And when my prospects start to go through the content, I'm going to go to the related tab and see what's going on. And let me actually showcase to you what happens when your prospect start playing for the content. On the same opportunity level, we have two custom objects that get created when we install the integration: Instruqt invite and Instruqt sessions. The invites is an overview of the invites that you have shared with your prospects. You see the date and the time when it has been created, when it will expire. You also see the URL for the invite and the claim count. And in the sessions, you actually see how are the prospects going for the content. Let's open one of the sessions. And here we see that the contact with whom I shared that specific track has actually already stopped going for the content. And what do we actually understand from that? We see that there are 5 chapters that we have included in our content. We wanted to tell the story, which has been divided into 5 parts of the content. And ideally, our prospect actually goes for that content and learns about our product. But in this specific case, we see that the user actually got stuck in the first chapter. It means that they spent 15 minutes, made one attempt, and actually, if you can see in the stop recent, they stopped. So they left that content. They didn't pay more attention. They didn't spend more time. So this means this is a very clear signal to follow up. You don't just see that someone dropped the content. You understand where did they drop. You know what's in that content, and you can have a targeted follow-up with that specific person, and then you can still win this deal. And let me show you one of the successful sessions. There is a view of all the sessions that are connected to this specific opportunity. We'll see that there is a status that says if the play has started, stopped, or actually has been completed. And if we open one of the completed ones, we're going to see the checkmark sign at every challenge level. So it means that the prospect successfully went for all the content. But as you can see here on the first challenge, they had 2 attempts. It either means that they wanted to go twice for that, they didn't understand, but they still were so involved that they finished and actually went for the whole content. But if we'll take a look at the rating that left, it's just a 3. So the follow-up here might be that I actually see that you have interest in my product. You did engage a lot, but still there is not enough for you. So I need to follow up with something more interesting for that specific person to then still win this deal. But as I mentioned, this is the sessions overview for this specific opportunity. So here we know who are my prospects in that opportunity, how well they're doing. But during the day, me as a sales engineer, as a value engineer, I have multiple deals that I have to be on top of. And for that, I need a more broader overview to get clear signals how to act. And for that, we actually will go to the reports. Let me quickly open the report section. And in the reports, in the all folders, we're going to find Instruqt folder. And here are, let me zoom out a little bit. Here are the 5 pre-built reports that go with a managed package when the integration is actually installed. These are the reports that are standard and will be installed automatically. Very important to mention here that because we built the integration based on custom objects, everything is customizable for your specific preferences and for your team. So together with your Salesforce admin, you can actually create reports using Instruqt data, and that will help you make decisions and actually understand how well your prospects are doing. As an example, one of the reports is content engagement summary. This is the report that shows you the quality of the content. So you can actually see the name of the Instruqt track that you have been sharing with your prospects. You see how many sessions did each track have. This one had 13, this one had 6. And you actually see what's the status of the session for each prospect. You see the duration and the rating. We do understand that the 5 and the 4 are actually the highest rating, so the people were quite happy with this one. But if your content starts to get a lot of 2s and 3s and 1s, this is a signal for your content team to actually go and look deeper. Where do people drop off? Where do they get stuck? Do we need to revamp that content and actually help our prospects to have a better experience with our product? One other report that is quite important for the sales teams is actually engagement by opportunity. This is the report that shows to the sales engineer, to the value engineer, or to AE the opportunities that they have to be on top of during the day. So these are the opportunities that I own or I'm a part of as a follower in Salesforce. And here I actually see the opportunity name, the stage the opportunity is in at the moment. I see if there is any Instruqt content involved, what type of content is that, what's the status, the duration, and the rating. So this is an overview for me to see all the opportunities I have, compare them, and understand who needs a follow-up, to whom I need to reach out ASAP. Maybe I need support from our AEs, and then we can work together on that specific prospect and help them and guide them to a successful experience with our product. Thomas, you told already that when you spend a lot of time in the field, you actually were looking for those signals, for those targeted signals to follow up. From your experience, what do you think that specific report and experience of Instruqt and Salesforce, how helpful would it be for you?
Very helpful. I mean, I like to tell the story when I first saw this as an internal demo early on in the development stage. This was about the point where I started bouncing in my seat, getting excited about talking about this to my former coworkers and to other folks, because the amount of data that I can get right there inside of Salesforce is just amazing. Like that's stuff that I can use to drive action, and I can see it right there in my sales system of record. And the great thing is for those of you who have created invites in Instruqt, everything that Denise went through creating invite, all the options are there. That looks very familiar. Those of you who live in Salesforce, at no point did Denise go into Instruqt. She was doing everything through the Salesforce integration. And, as an SE, that's where I lived. I was in Salesforce. That's why I was tracking my opportunities. That's your system of record for your sales motions. And, like we saw, if we see someone who's gone through an entire lab, that indicates interest, and that's someone I should be talking to. If I see someone getting stuck at a particular stage, I can follow up with them. But I've got all of that data, and not only can I see it, but my CSMs, my account reps, all those folks, they all see that stuff as well. Even if they've never touched, in the Instruqt portal for your team. And since it is integrated into Salesforce, it can be treated just like another Salesforce task. It's all right there. And it's everyone who's field facing, your SEs, your CSMs, your account reps, all of those folks can see that right inside of your system of record. But enough of that, enough of us talking. We want to hear what you think. So we're going to open up the floor for some questions. I know one we've got is, do you need to be an admin in order to do this? And I think Denise, you can answer that one.
Yep, happy to. So you do need a Salesforce admin to actually help you install the managed package, because we all know Salesforce is quite a guided environment, and it has to be safe from installing some software that's not allowed to be there. So for that, you do need an admin. You will have actually a step-by-step guidelines for the admin what to do. And as I mentioned, we provide the pre-installation checklist, so your admins can actually see the installation, the workflows for the installation, how the data will flow, the authentication levels, the permissions, and the user roles. Everything will be provided, and we from our current experience with the customers, we see that the integration will not take more than 15 minutes of the time of your Salesforce admin.
Yeah. And the nice thing about that is that to your Salesforce admin, they don't need to know anything about Instruqt. This looks like a normal Salesforce integration like they've dealt with before. So there's there's nothing weird about it to them. It looks very straightforward from a Salesforce admin, perspective.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And when we were showcasing the integration to our customers, we already had calls with the Salesforce admin teams, even the ones that manage hundreds of users and teams in Salesforce. And the feedback was very positive, because it really is a very easy integration to install, and a very, very clear documentation that we provide to actually walk and guide the Salesforce admin what needs to be done. I see we also have a question about details and how to learn more about the integration. You can reach out to our customer success team, to our sales team, and then we, of course, will tell you more. In case you already want to have a sneak peek at the documentation and some tutorials that we have prepared, it already exists in our official Instruqt docs, so you can take a look. And on our website, you have a specific landing page for Salesforce, and you can actually send us a demo request from that landing page. Do we have any more questions, Thomas? I don't see any.
I think we got one, and then we'll wrap it up. We see, does this integration work with the lead object as well?
The lead object actually is something that coming for the Instruqt and Salesforce integration in the future. Stay tuned for the updates, because we have a special use case for demand gen teams, and for them we want to be sure that we will be able to catch leads properly and actually create the proper information in Salesforce. So that's right now work in progress for our engineering and product team. So stay tuned.
Yeah, so stay tuned there, because we want to address not only your SESIs, your CSMs, and your account reps, but we want to bring your field marketing folks in as well, and help them get the same value out of this that you would be getting out of this as part of a sales integration. Well, I think we're at time. So from Denise and myself, I want to thank everyone for stopping by this webinar or watching the recording afterwards. Like we said, there's the QR code on the screen right there. Get in touch with us if you've got any questions, if you want to see the documentation and stuff on our website. And we'd love to hear from you about this new, exciting, and improved Salesforce integration.